carrying a box of whatever Toms we had left over to put back into the bus. And I'm about to get on, and this woman comes running around the corner. And she's crying hard, and she's shouting out at me in Spanish. Now, my Spanish isn't very good, but especially if someone's speaking fast or they're crying, I can't understand them at all. And so I'm looking at her, and right behind her there are 3 boys. And they're running and have red pairs of Toms on as well. And I go to Alejo, I say, Alejo, we gotta go to the next place, but this woman's crying and she's trying to tell me something and I don't understand. Can you please ask her what's wrong? So in Spanish, he asks her what's wrong. And when she replies, she stops crying but starts smiling. But as I look at Alejo, who's listening to her, I see a tear literally coming down his eye. And I knew at that moment she was not crying because she was sad, she was crying because she was happy. But I was not prepared for what she was getting ready to tell me. And that was this, that these 3 boys were her sons. And that for the past year, they had been sharing a single pair of shoes. They had an old black leather Oxford shoe that was way too big for all of them, that they had been sharing. And what that meant was her oldest son would wear the shoe that barely fit, walk at least an hour or 2 to get to school on Monday, come back in the evening, after a 2-hour walk in the same shoes again, take the shoes off, give them to his brother, and then he would have to wait until Thursday for the shoes to go through the rotation of the brothers to get them back so he could go back to school. I mean, this blew me away like nothing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, can you imagine for those of you who have kids or brothers or sisters, or when you were back in school, that if you desperately wanted to go to school, if you knew that school and education was the only way for you to pull yourself out of the impoverished situation they were living in, but you were only able to go twice a week just because you didn't have a single pair of shoes. I mean, when this woman was telling me this story, I just sat there, and I remember getting back on the bus, and I was speechless for like the rest of the day. And when I got on the plane to go back to Los Angeles the next day, I decided that I was going to dedicate my life to this. I still owned a software company, and the driver's ed was going great. I was still doing that half my time and half my time at Tom's. And I made a commitment when I got back, I would go to my partners and say, look, I'm going all in. This is too meaningful. There's too much more work to be done. And I did. I went back to LA. I told my partners. They got it. I was able to sell the 33% of the company that I owned to another group. I took all the money that I got from the proceeds, every single penny, opened up the first Tom's, official Tom's bank account. We started hiring people, specifically say in sales that actually knew how to talk to Nordstrom. We hired a guy from ASICS that could help us build shoes. And then we started getting more press. We had stuff like Time Magazine, People Magazine. 10,000 shoes became 50,000 shoes. 50,000 shoes became 1 million shoes. And actually today, for the very first time publicly, because it just went to press this morning, I can announce that as of this week, Tom's has given away 10 million pairs of shoes. But we're not just stopping with shoes. 2 years ago, I recognized that this one-for-one model was much bigger than shoes. That this idea came to me, this model had been given to us, and we would not be responsible if we just only focused on shoes. There's so many more needs in the world. So as we traveled around and saw many needs, everything from food and shelter and water, one of the needs that I saw being met in the most remarkable way was eye care and vision. It's amazing to see in these eye camps in the most rural villages in the world, dedicated local doctors doing cataract surgeries that in 15 minutes give someone their sight back. Or going and doing screenings at elementary schools where children can't even understand why they can't see the chalkboard, but then once you explain to them, there's no way they can afford the glasses that they need and giving them those. So 2 years ago, Tom's launched Tom's Eyewear. The idea would be is we'd sell a simple pair of sunglasses in many, many different styles, and for every pair we sell, we would give someone their sight, one for Now what's so great about this is we're able to help people in many different ways through our one-for-one model. We're able to do cataract surgeries, we're able to do eye treatments, we're able to do screenings abroad and even here in the United States. There's so many children right here in our own backyard, they can't afford the prescription glasses they need to thrive in school. And since we launched this, it's almost been 2 years now, we're getting ready to approach giving sight to over 200,000 people. And I can thank you.